Welcome to the data presentation tool, the DPT training series. In this video, we're going to go through DPT data searches. The main search area of the DPT is a patient search. It's going to allow you to search for unique patients meeting any number of criteria based on the CPCSSN data elements. You're able to run both and or searches. You can do quite a bit of variety. You can save searches. We'll go through those things in this video. When you open up the patient search screen, you're going to be presented with a list of the fields that are contained in the CPCSSN database, organized by the different tables in which they come from. For the sake of this video, we're not going to go through the definitions of these fields. CPCSSN does have a data dictionary and information about the infrastructure of the database on their website. When you enter the search screen, within each of the fields each of these fields will have different types of features. Some of the fields will have just a plain text box entry, others will have a drop-down option, others will be a pop-up menu, and each have their own functions. Plain text box entry, you can enter free text which you'd like to enter in there. Recommend that you have an idea about what type of data is entered in there so you can maximize your search results. But when you see a drop-down, what that's providing you is it allows you to do a sneak peek of what type of data is contained in the database. So if I click on the drop-down for the sex field, I can see that there are the options of either male or female. Some fields will have more than others. If I was to do the same thing, if I'm looking at encounters and the original reason for the encounter, if I click on that, I'll be provided with a long list of different reasons for encounter that are in the database. Now, one of the things you'll notice is in the CPCSSN database, you're going to see cleaned and original throughout the DPT. The cleaned and original provide an overview to let you to see which fields have been cleaned by CPCSSN algorithms and which will have clean data. Then the original provides you the original text that was coming directly from the EMR, so it's unmodified text. Depending on the type of search you'd like to do, both are helpful and useful. Okay, so when you're doing searches, you have some options to do. So as I mentioned before, you can click on the drop-down to get an idea as to what data is contained in each field. Another thing you can do is you can do some quick filtering as well. So let's say I'm looking for the original for encounter diagnosis of diabetes. I can start typing in the word diabetes, just a DAIB, and then click on the drop down and it'll show me what options I would get. Searches within the DPT are inclusive, so any text that has the search terms contained in it will be included in your search results. So if I was to search on just DIAB, it would include any patients that have an encounter diagnosis of any of these three texts. Using that in practice, you can, for more precise searches, you want to make sure you enter more text. And if you want a broader search, keep your search criteria a little bit shorter. Okay. Other things that you'll notice, there are pop-up menus. When you have those, it's going to be just specific values that are available. These are typically calculated fields where the DPT is using other variables to kind of speed up your search for you. For example, in the time since last visit, it's going to be a yes or no, has the patient had an encounter, which is from above the encounters in the last 6 months. It's going to save you from having to do a range search in the encounter section. Some tools that you have when you're doing the searches is you can do, like as I mentioned, a range search. When you're doing a range search will work for dates or for numbers. So if I was looking for a range of dates, what I can do is I can click on the calendar and I can select my first date. I would then click back in the text, click after the first date, put 3 dots, and then click on the calendar and put my second date. What that's doing now is that's going to do a search for any patients that have had an encounter between February 25th, 2015 and February 26th, 2015. Another thing I can do when I'm doing searches for dates is I can say show me any encounter that has happened after a particular date by using the greater than symbol and then putting the date in. If I wanted to include the date, I would put an equal sign, and that would be any encounter that is on or after that date. I can do the same thing the other way if I want to show any encounter that is before or on that date, or just any encounter that is before that date. That works for any of the date fields. You can also use the ranges and the greater than, less than options for numeric fields. So if I want to find any patient between 18 and 65, I can use the range there. I can say any patient that is under 65, any patient that is greater than or equal to 18, and so forth and so on. Those are some searches for you. Other search tips you can do is there is a wildcard search. What that allows you to do is you could say, I want to know any patient that has ethnicity populated. I could click, just put the little asterisk symbol in there, and it would find any patient that has any variable in this ethnicity field. At the same time, I could use the equal sign, which would provide me any patient that does not have any ethnicity included in the database or in their record. Now with ethnicity, I know for this particular test database, there's not any data in there. A way that I could quickly check that without having to do a search is by clicking on the little arrow, the drop down. When I click on it, no values are shown, which means there's actually no data available about ethnicity in this particular database. Okay. Okay, so now what I can do is I would start filling in information for a search. So for our particular search today, we're going to search for any patient that has greater than one condition. So they have two or more conditions. They are between the ages of 18, 65. And let's start with that. Once I put my criteria in there, any criteria you put in the screen becomes an AND criteria. So it's going to be any patient that has a condition count of greater than one, conditions being one of the 8 SIPSN conditions, and they're between the ages of 18 and 65. Once I put my criteria into the search screen, I click on Execute Search. DPT is going to ask me a couple of questions. The first question it'll ask me is if I'm performing a not search. You do have the ability to create a omit search, which means it's going to find any patients that do not meet the specified criteria. For now, I'm doing a find search because I want to actually find those patients meeting those criteria. So I'd press find, and then it's going to ask, please specify search type. And please specify what you would like to do with the search criteria. Would you like to create a new search, add to an existing search, or constrain the existing search, which is an and or an or. What this allows you to do is you can create step searches. So you can create one search. I can do a search right now for this patients that have a count of conditions greater than one, and in this age group, I can do a secondary search that says, well, of that patient's group, how many of those patients have diabetes? And that's where I would use a constrained existing search. Or I can say, also show me those patients that have had that are above the age 65, and that would include both searches that I've included. For now, we're doing a brand new search. After every search you do, you'll get you'll be taken to the search summary page, and it's going to give you a little bit of data. It's going to give you a total of the patients that were found. Right now, an unnamed search result, you can name that search. So if I click on the info, I can call this patients with greater than one condition, and they're 18 to 65. 18 to 65-year-old patients with one condition. I can have the ability to save the search for future use, so I can run it again, or I can just press OK. You'll notice above in the window, it's actually giving you a breakdown of the criteria that you've used for the search. Condition count of greater than 1 in patient age 18 to 65. Press OK. Then part of the search results, you'll be able to see the average age of those patients, average BMI, where a BMI is available, percentage that are rural. This is based on the second digit on the postal code. If it's a 0, then they're rural. You can view the results, which we'll do in another video. Then you have some options here. You can create a new search. You can have other reports. You can export the data. You can go back home to the dashboard, and we'll talk about each of those in subsequent videos. The top right corner, you have a time since last visit in months. So you can see 83% of these patients have had a visit in the last 12 months. And then you have an age gender distribution of those patients and a condition prevalence. So of the patients, of this subset of patients, 43% have diabetes, 53% have depression, so forth and so on. And looking further below, we have a confirmation of our search. It says 80% of the patients have only 2 conditions, but 0% have just 1 condition because we asked for greater than 1. 158 or 16% have 3 conditions, and this is an exact count. 2 conditions, 3 conditions, 4 conditions, or over 4 conditions. And those are the results after every search you'll get. Now, if we want to add to the search, if we wanted to say, just show me those patients that have over 1 condition and have diabetes, I would click on New Search. It's going to take me back to the search screen. And now I want to find of those patients which ones have diabetes. I would click on Execute Search. I would click on Find because it's still Find. But now I'm going to click on And this is going to constrain my existing search. Now what it gives me is of those patients, we have 100% of them are diabetes because that's what we asked. Still 0 have 1 condition, so they have to have at least 2 conditions, and a new breakdown of it based on those things. Okay, I'm going to go back to the search screen. And that provides an overview of the DPT searching. For more functions and more ideas, there is a detailed DPT manual. Also, any feedback can be sent through the DPT feedback function.